Hi everyone, how are you all? I hope you're doing really well. So today I'm here with another recipe, something I'm hoping that you guys are going to really enjoy. So every few weeks I like to kind of break the ice and do something a bit different, come away from the savory and do something sweet. So this week I'm going to see if you can take a guess what I'm making, but as always you've probably seen in the title now. So I am going to be making some really tasty, healthy flapjacks. So flapjacks, just in case you don't know what they are, which you probably all do by now anyway, flapjacks are a really nice tasty snack made out of rolled oats, nuts, sugar, butter and golden syrup. Obviously we are going to be tweaking the recipe a little bit because, as you've seen in the title, they are healthy. So we're going to be replacing the sugar with some really good lovely honey, and we're going to be trying to use a good source of butter. And obviously you do get the really nice taste of flapjacks with golden syrup. I know it's not the best of things to use, but we're going to be using a little bit of it, not too much. But we are going to be balancing the flapjacks with some really tasty other ingredients. So with flapjacks, the basics is just oats, butter, sugar and golden syrup. And after that you can decide what you want to add in it, if you want to add anything into it. The whole purpose of a flapjack is to make it a really protein packed, high protein, high fiber snack to have any time of the day. In my house, flapjacks are usually eaten for breakfast, something to have on the go, almost like a homemade protein bar. And I like to add in as much as fibre as I can into it. So I've got a selection of ingredients here, and I'm going to show you the kind of things that you can add in your flapjacks at home if you have them. If not, if you can go shopping, these are so accessible, they're so easy to buy. 10 years ago, maybe 15 years ago, these things might not have been so accessible, and they probably would have been a lot more expensive due to the limited variety that we were able to buy. So I've got a selection of nuts here. So my favourite nuts are Brazil nuts. Really packed in fibre. They're very oily nuts, so they're quite high in calories, but they contain a lot of fibre and a lot of protein in them. And you don't really find Brazilian nuts that often anyway, but some supermarkets have them right in the snack aisle, and it says even here delicious as a snack, so it's a really good source of a natural fat. And I've also got some cashew nuts. Again, cashew nuts are a really good source of protein and high fiber, and I've chosen the salted ones. The reason why is because I wanted to add a little bit of a savory taste into my flapjacks. And as you can see, this is open because I've been nibbling on them this morning, and I really love cashew nuts. My kids love cashew nuts, my husband loves cashew nuts. Cashew nuts are a really good way of they're one of the foods that have a positive bacteria impact in your body. So if you have like a tooth infection or any kind of infections, cashew nuts are really good. Right, so, and then also got some dry fruit. I've got some dried mango. I really like dry mango, and I think it's a very nice chewy texture if you like the chewy texture in your flapjacks. Well, flapjacks are kind of chewy anyway, and if you like mango, any kind of fruit that you like, you can get the dry form of it. You can even dehydrate your fruits at home, which I will send you pictures. I dehydrate my own fruits at home as well in my dehydrator. Really cool way of utilizing fruits that are going off, or you just got way too many of them. And then I've got some prunes. Now, prunes are a must-have in every home, whether or not you have any kind of gut issues, or you suffer from constipation or anything like that. Prunes are so high in fiber. This is a superfood. I consider this a superfood that's just so cost effective and so easy to buy. And so these particular ones, they're not sweetened, so otherwise you do usually get prunes are soaked in sugar, and you don't really want to get those ones. You want to get ones that are naturally dry. Right, so there's my variety of nuts, and just in case you're wondering where I buy these from, so I buy most of my nuts from Lidl or Aldi, and they're so cheap. So most of these are cost between the range of $1.19 to $1.99. I think the Brazilian nuts, maybe the cashew nuts are $2.29, but we all know cashew nuts are a bit expensive. But otherwise, it's so affordable. It's not too expensive. I also wanted to add some seeds in my flapjacks. Now, as you know, seeds contain so many goodness in them. They're high in fiber, they're high in magnesium, they're high in protein, they're high in omega-3. But which seeds do you go for? So the seeds that you want to go for are pumpkin seeds. You want to go definitely for linseeds, or as some people call them, flax seeds. It depends on the color, and some are roasted, some are not roasted. So it's entirely up to you whether you want roasted nuts or just plain nuts. I go for the plain ones. And then you've also got sunflower seeds as well. So I have all of those seeds at home, but I would have to blend them in the blender because my kids and I don't really like them as whole when they're in the flapjacks. We like them a little bit, fine. So what I decided to do is just get these super seed mixes, and there's one fruity linseed mix and one's a super linseed mix, and the difference is this one's got goji berries and it's just got linseeds, goji berries, sunflowers, and pumpkin seeds, whereas this one has got sesame seeds, blueberries, raspberries, linseeds. So it just really depends on your taste. I think the main difference is goji berries and blueberries, and the rest is kind of the same. So whether you want to go for the goji berry mixture or you want to go for the blueberry mixture, it's entirely up to you. They both look different, goji berries and blueberries, but they kind of have the same taste and the same texture. They both come in the family of blueberries, so they're very high in antioxidants. Obviously, if you can go for the natural stuff, that's always better, but you don't always find them in season. So goji berries you're hardly able to find anyway. So I'm gonna go for today, I think I'm gonna go for the blueberry mixture, simply because I think in my family you'll find more votes for blueberries, but goji berries are quite nice, but I like goji berries as a whole. Right, but in this particular mixture, because I want everything fine. Right, so the process that we're gonna do, I've got 250 grams of rolled oats. If you are gonna buy oats, try to buy the jumbo organic natural oats, because this is the main base ingredients of our recipe. So you want to try and make it, you want to try and get the best of the best. Again, really cost effective. Rolled oats, I think a packet of 1 kg natural jumbo rolled oats cost not more than £1.50. If you go for the branded ones, maximum you'll pay is £2.50. But I'm not fussy about whether they're branded or supermarket brands, as long as they're jumbo and organic. So these ones are jumbo organic, and this cost me, I think, £1.09. So in total, I'll tell you towards the end how much this cost me to make, and it's so reasonable. And then I've got some honey here. So what I will be doing, I've got some butter. I've got about, in total, I think 125 grams of butter. And I'm going to be melting this butter, and then I'm going to melt two tablespoons of honey and about 3 tablespoons of golden syrup, and I'm going to be melting that and then mixing it in the rolled oats. Then I'm going to be adding the nuts, mixing all the nuts in, and then this is going to go on a baking sheet and a baking tray, and it's going to go in the oven for about 15 minutes, and that's going to just help everything glue together and set together. Now, some people asked me a question, because I think I made something similar to this in the classes maybe a year ago. Someone asked me, can we use olive oil instead of butter? Yes, you can use olive oil instead of butter. You're not going to get the traditional taste of flapjacks, because the traditional taste of flapjacks comes from the combination of butter and golden syrup and sugar. We've already kind of distinguished the sugar. We're using honey instead. If you kind of take out the butter as well, it's not going to be something that you will be able to relate to as flapjacks. And also, butter isn't necessarily a bad thing. It's a natural fat, it's a good protein, and as long as it's a good quality, low salt butter, it's actually going to bring anything but goodness into your flapjack. As long as you understand when and how to eat these kind of snacks, they're not something that you would have on top of a main meal. They would be something that you'll have in between meals or as meal replacements. In my case, in my family's case, we would have them for breakfast, or we would have them like a after school snack, because I don't know if you have small kids, but my kids, when they come back from school, they're so hungry that they will just have anything and everything. And sometimes when I know I'm not going to be able to come home and make anything that quickly, I would just pop out one of these flapjacks and they will be so happy and satisfied, and they're not going to go for anything junky and unhealthy. And I know that they're going to get some fibre, they're going to get some protein, they're going to get some really, really good natural fats, and that's going to keep me satisfied. So before we get on melting the butter and adding in the honey and the golden syrup, because it's going to really, really glue everything together really quickly, what we're going to do is we are going to just quickly chop all the nuts that we're going to be adding in our flapjacks. So I've got my Brazilian nuts here. Look. And again, if you are a fussy person with fruits and dry fruits and nuts, then this is a good way of having these kind of things, and they're disguised and, you know, they're hidden. Or if you have fussy kids that, you know, just don't tend to eat that many nuts, you know, nuts are so important, especially for a growing age, that maybe making something like this can help, you know, you and your family just intake as many natural healthy fats. It's good for the brain, it's good for the heart. Everything has to be eaten in moderation. So, and it's a good thing that you can cut these out in pieces, cut the flapjacks out in pieces. That way you have a good calorie count and you control the amount that you're eating. I can put these in the food processor and blend these, but again, unlike the seeds, I don't want the nuts to be in a powder form, because with anything like flapjacks, you want to be able to crunch on the nuts, because that's the whole fun, unless you're someone who just likes everything smooth. You can add peanut butter if you just can't be bothered going out to buy nuts, or you just don't have any nuts, or you know, you want to make a really, really, really big batch and you just want it to be really cost effective. But then again, you know, if you can make your own peanut butter at home, that's even better. Again, you have these hidden sugars and peanut butters and hidden salts, and you have these extra oils that are not necessarily the best options. Okay, so you don't want to cut them too big either, because otherwise when you're cutting up the sizes for the flapjacks, these are going to come in between and you're not going to get really nice cut portions. Right, so that's that. So in goes our Brazilian nuts, and then comes the cashew nuts. So it's about a handful, I'd say maybe half a cup, or just under half a cup of nuts each, of each nut. Okay. Okay, so I put in the nuts, the cashew nuts and the Brazilian nuts. I'm going to give them a quick mix. And now we're just going to quickly chop the dried mango. Right, let's figure out how to open this packet. And there's change of packaging here. Okay, there we go. It's like one of those tissue boxes. That smell, wow, it smells amazing. Okay, so I'm not going to get too many of the mango strips, because mango, I find dried mango very overpowering, and I don't want my flapjacks to be overpowered by mango, but again, I do want some mango in there. Okay, and then number 4, we have the prunes, and I'm going to add about quite a few prunes. We all like prunes, we love prunes, we've been brought up with eating prunes, and I always just feel so satisfied knowing that I've had a breakfast with prunes in it in the morning. Sometimes I just have yogurt with some crunchy nut and prunes on top. Absolutely lovely. And then knowing my kids have had something like this before they've gone to school, it just keeps me so happy. Okay. Right. That's it. You don't have to cut them too big, too small. You just want to make sure that when you're cutting out the squares, they're not too big, otherwise they're going to be these slices are not too big, otherwise you won't be able to get fine squares. And to be honest, if you're making the flapjacks for home, it doesn't really matter how they look, but then you also want them to look pretty as well. So, right, here we go. Put the prunes and the mango in there. And now we are going to add in our seed mix. Keto. Right, so I'm going to do about half a cup. Just over half a cup. Smells amazing. You can smell the blueberries definitely, and it's actually going to add a really nice color as well. Now we're going to give this a good mix, and you want to be really good mixing it. Take your time mixing it because you want to proportion out where your blueberries are. You can see they're already kind of you know, clogging up together, so you want to separate them, your prunes and your mango. Once that's all done and mixed really well, then you can go ahead with the next step, which is adding in the wet ingredients. Right, we'll carry on doing that in a minute. Firstly, what we're going to do is we are going to just add in our butter that we're going to melt. So there goes in our butter, and then in here we are going to add in about 3 spoons of honey. Oh, let's say 2 spoons of honey. That's 1 spoon. And because we're adding the fruits in as well, I don't need to worry about too much of the sweetness. The fruits are going to add in sweet. And in this case, I want to add in a bit more of the golden syrup, more than the honey, because I really like the taste of golden syrup. About 2 and 3 spoons. And now we're just going to put this on the stove to melt. Just clean that out. And while this is melting, we'll just give the dry mixture a bit more of a mix. Okay, so the butter, the honey and golden syrup has melted really well. You want it to reach to this stage that it's foamy, and that's when you know the butter has, you know, has got this caramelized kind of taste, this, or not burnt, but almost burnt. And the golden syrup and the honey has mixed in really well, so it almost looks like it's double in size, right? So just in case you're wondering, I've got this silicone heat proof mat, so I don't need to worry about my worktop. Right, give that a good mix again, and as it's cooling down, it will calm down. Now you don't want it to completely cool down before you add it in the mixture, because half of the oats are going to kind of cook in this hot mixture. So again, before everything goes in, give everything a really good mix, because that's it. Once the wet ingredients goes in, it's going to have its final mix. Now as you're putting it in, pouring it in, just give it a good kind of spread out. Oh my god, it already smells so nice. And you might think, oh god, this looks really wet. It needs time to mix really well for everything to kind of mix in well. This is going to feel a bit sticky at first, but you'll see and realize how it's going to kind of dry out as you're mixing it. It needs to be more on the wet side, because don't forget, this is going to go in the oven and bake for about 15 minutes, and while it's baking, the moisture is going to kind of get soaked up by the oats, and that's what you want. Oh god, that smells so good. This just takes me back to school days. I think flapjacks is one of the first recipes that we were taught to make in our food technology classes. That doesn't mean that it's a recipe for kids. I mean, at that time we were taught a very basic recipe, and that was with sugar and butter. Really, that's it. It was nothing like this. But again, this is something you can make with your kids or grandchildren, or you know, it's even something therapeutic to make at home. And it gives such a welcoming kind of fragrance and smell in your home. The combination of oats and golden syrup, it just goes so good, and honey. Alright, so make sure every single oat is soaked in by the syrup. And now we're going to quickly put some greaseproof paper on some baking sheets. And you don't want to take time doing this, because you don't want the mixture to get all dry before it goes in the oven. So now ideally you want to get a deep baking tray, but I want mine to be a bit more flat. which is not the typical kind of flapjacks, but we kind of like them big and flat, almost like, I don't know, brownie squares. Right. And then you want to spread out the mixture on here. So I'm going to put all of this mixture on this one baking sheet. I've got a few purple strands in this bowl, and that's from the blueberry seed mix. Now this bit is really, really important. So we're going to get a spoon and flatten out all the mixture evenly. Everything out there. Flatten it out very, very evenly. Okay, make sure, and kind of squeeze it as you're going along. Squeeze it so everything's really, really packed. So you want to make sure the baking tray that you put it in isn't too big, because you want all the mixture to kind of be stuck together, glued together. If it's spread out on a really big baking tray, you're really just going to get clusters. You're not going to get these blocks that you expect with flapjacks. I forgot to mention, preheat your oven at 200 degrees and not more than that, otherwise your flapjacks will just burn on top, and they won't cook through, and you want them to cook through. Really, this is edible as it is right now, because you can have oats as it is, but you want everything to kind of stick together, glue together, and to get crispy inside. So now, before this goes in the oven, just make sure, yeah, that looks quite well. Before this goes in the oven, we're going to get a knife. You just get a normal butter knife, and we're just going to cut some squares out. So let's just measure out. Yep, so we're going to cut some squares out, and this is really just to make it easy to cut them out once they come out of the oven. Okay. They don't have to be even, unless you're a bakery or a cafe and you're selling them. I think we're going to do 1, 2, yeah. So in total, we are going to get 12 squares. Okay. And what this does, it just makes it easy to cut them in slices once it's done. Okay, so this is now going to go in. Can you see that the prunes are kind of splitting them apart? So that's why I meant that, don't cut them too big, too small. All right, so this is going to go in the oven for about 15 minutes, and then I'll show you what they look like on the other side. Okay, so it's been about 15